All right, so I am sitting here with Mike Hoyer, and we're sitting in his kitchen looking at his beautiful view of the waterfront here. And I'd just like you to introduce yourself, Mike. Tell me a little bit about how long you've lived here and what you do for a living.
Hi, my name is Mike, and I've lived here since 2004. I just found this place, and my realtor said, $1 million view, take it. So we did, and I've become enamored with the river and gotten quite involved with a number of things along the river.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you're a volunteer over at the Discovery Center, right?
Yes.
How did you get involved with that?
I think I just walked in one day and said, what's going on here? And somebody talked to me and did an interview and a criminal check. And next thing you know, I'm observing programs. But usually the biggest one at the time was the sturgeon and pollution and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then we started working on other projects. And over time, I'm down there doing various programs for the Discovery Center.
Awesome. So what sort of work do you do at the Discovery Center?
I basically go in only when there's school groups and they need someone to do an interpretive program. And I've done walking tours on the waterfront. I've done introductory outside sessions. I've done stuff with the sturgeon, the salmon, the history, the archaeology, pollution.
Awesome.
Things like that.
So tell me about one of your first days working along the waterfront. What was that like for you?
You know, I honestly don't remember. I just remember trying to digest all the facts about the sturgeon, which I'd never seen, which is down there, and they're big, and they're beautiful, and yet they're ugly, and I haven't seen any live ones here. The only live ones I've seen are over at the aquarium in Stanley Park.
So you're talking about them, but you don't actually see them too much.
My goal is to go out this summer and go fishing with some group out in Chilliwack that fishes catch and release, really, because they are an endangered species, but to go out and see what they do and just get some pictures and enjoy.
Do you know if there's anywhere along the river here that you could catch fish? Or
well, they've been caught, but I haven't seen sturgeon. I've seen salmon being caught. I've seen ulican. I've seen seals out here. I've seen everything out here, but I just haven't. No.
Yeah. Do you see a lot of people fish along the river since you've lived here? Or?
Sometimes, yeah. You'll get a lot of people fishing just along the waterfront, right out in the wharf here.
Yeah. They do it maybe more recreationally than to make any money? It's just for
only
fun.
Recreation.
Cool. So that's
a couple of
definitely
First Nations people, but First Nations people, you'll often see the nets floating up and down the river with a boat, and you know it's the First Nations people doing their thing, but along the water it's just recreational.
Right, that's cool. So, what sort of experience did you have to be a volunteer at the Fraser River? You were just saying that basically just being a community member.
I just go, I observe the programs, and eventually, when they didn't have someone else doing it, they threw me in, and away I went. You have to go through the usual hassles of any organization. You have to do an application, an interview, and a security check, which is fair.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite part about doing those walks along the river?
Just being outside, along the river, telling people a few facts about the river that they didn't know about.
Yeah. Do you think that the kids get a lot from the walks?
Yeah, I do. I think they get we talk about First Nations people, we talk about the biology, we talk about the fish, we talk about what it was like here 15,000 years ago. We talk about the history, the gold rush, all the uses of the Fraser River, the various boats. We talk about the canneries, the lumber yards, and hopefully, there's something passing along the river that I can talk about. Everything from the ro-ros that take on the cars from the Far East to the tugs that are pulling all their wood chips up to Kruger Paper Mills, which makes all our toilet paper and paper towels.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Just around the corner.
There you go. We know where it comes from. So do you enjoy your job?
Yeah, it's a volunteer job. I'm a retired educator, and so I enjoy working with people, and I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Is there any unique challenges you face when you're doing that? Or is it mostly fun?
No, I think the beauty of it is I meet the group, I have a lot of fun with them, get to know some of them well, and after 2-3 hours, they're gone, I'm gone. It's not as if I have to go back every day and it's like a classroom and
Yeah.
discipline problems, none of that. They're good.
They're probably happy because they're on a field trip.
That's right. And well, when I do the walk, for example, there's the park just up at the end. I tell them, after an hour of listening to me, there's a park at the end. I'm going to let you play. They enjoy it. They like that.
That's awesome. So, let's see here. Where does the sense of community come from in New West, in your opinion? Is it based on living in the area, or do you think that people that work together hang out a lot, or is it something different maybe?
Well, we've got real community just in this building alone. I'm involved with the Block Watch program, and I'm always talking to people. When I'm out there, I make a point of greeting people, and through the program, I get to know other volunteers, new people. I've met a lot of interesting people that pass through there, that are quite involved with the Discovery Center. So it's kind of fun. Yeah, it's just meeting and greeting and talking and sharing ideas. And I'm learning more. I'm always learning more about the Fraser River. Last summer, I took a 3-day rafting trip. Went up to Yale, and then we went up to Thompson River, and for 3 days we rafted down the river, and their interpretive people gave me a lot of the history of the Fraser River going back further. I came home, I read a lot of books out of the library on the history of the river, the whole history of BC as it evolved around the river really is this is central to the history of the province.
So based on your knowledge of all the history, what would you say has changed the most about the waterfront over the years?
Well, when you look out here and you see all this concrete, to think 150 to 200 years ago, all it was trees and nothing, just nothing. Some First Nations people, maybe 200-300 living along here in a small community, a couple of canoes, but none of the buildings that you see here. And of course, we have to watch out because the way we encroach upon the river, it's destroying the fish habitat. Their ability to spawn and reproduce, hide, gather food, all that, it's contingent upon good shoreline. So we've altered that in the last 200 years ago. But the oldest sturgeon lived to be 150 years old. So you think about it, the oldest sturgeon down there was around when gold was discovered here in 1858.
He remembers what it used to look like.
Right.
What do you see for the future of New West? Do you think that the waterfront's going to change even more radically, or do you think that we're kind of where we're at?
Oh, I'm a little worried. We got 6 more towers going up here, just all within walking distance of where I live. But no, I think we're doing a good job of maintaining a healthy river. We're not putting dams on it. We're not impeding the fish anymore. We're encouraging the fish, with fish ladders and so on after the disasters that they had in 1914 and 15 with the rock slides at Hell's Gate, but that's all behind us. Compared to, let's say, the Columbia River, it's a healthy river for fish.
So you think that in that case that might actually benefit us?
Well, it's the lifeblood of the province. If we abuse this river, I don't know what's going to happen to the fishing industry, the lumber industry.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the shipping industry that happens along the waterfront, do you think that is maybe interfering with the fishing?
Well, that's a contentious one right now because right across there is where they want to build the coal port. And I can see that being a potential problem with coal dust. I mean, we see it on our balcony. We just have to scrape our fingers along that white railing there, and there's always coal dust. There's dust in the air. It can only get worse by doing that. Yep.
Definitely. I can imagine what that would do to the environment around here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting considering we're kind of moving beyond, well, I thought we had moved beyond using coal as an energy resource.
It's a really 3rd, 4th, 5th class type of fuel, and it's poor grade coal, and here we are shipping it out just to accommodate the Americans. We're shipping it to China, and China's got 5 times the pollution level it should have, and it's just going to end up drifting back here. So it's really destroying everything for the Chinese, for the Americans, for us. We shouldn't even play with that.
Really? So where do people in the community tend to gather around here? Is there any special locations that hold a sense of community for you?
Well, there's a lot happening at the market.
Yeah.
there's always something going on at the market in the way of community events and the kucha or whatever they call it, these evenings, special evenings that somebody organizes. They're kind of fun. I've been to a couple. There's festivals that are organized by the Quayside Community Board. There's activities along here. Plus we've got pretty good shopping down there now, so people are just up and down the boardwalk all the time.
Yeah. How affordable are the businesses along the waterfront to shop at?
Good. They're very competitive. We could use a few more, but that'll come with time. They've just reworked the whole river market, so it's a little bit, and it's undergone a metamorphosis in the last 5 years or so, and it's coming around. There's good shopping, healthy food places, some good restaurants to eat at, liquor store, a pub. There's the Vancouver Circus School upstairs.
Yeah, we saw that when we were meeting for the project. We were watching people do flips on the
that's
trampoline.
where Rick Mercer came and did a CBC program. 22 this hour. No, what is Rick? It's called the Rick Mercer program. I guess.
This hour is 22 minutes.
No,
think,
it's the Rick Mercer.
Yeah.
Program.
Oh, Rick Mercer report.
He came did his thing there once. So
Yeah, that's cool. Let's see here. What about the restaurants and everything? Those are affordable, you think?
Oh, they're good restaurants. The Wild Rice, the Wally's Burgers. There's a coffee shop, Tre Gelato. There's a bakery. There's lots of. There's a tea place. I'm trying to think of all the different places that are down there. It's a New Florist.
Make sure it's still recording.
Still recording.
We're still good. So you probably walk to just everywhere in the neighborhood around here, hey?
Oh, I'm walking out there 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
All the time.
You wouldn't even need to own a car. You got everything right at your
Well,
doorstep.
that's it. We, last year, about this time, consciously made the decision we're going to try to live without a car. So we've gone without a car for just over a year, and we use public transit. If people volunteer to drive us places, we'll take them. But other than that, we have just done it with public transit and buses. We've used a cab twice. We're saving a bundle doing it.
I can imagine, and it's a lot better for the environment,
And
too.
this is it. Our carbon footprint has been reduced somewhat.
Definitely. Do
Yeah.
you find that it's been pretty easy to get by like that?
We've survived quite nicely. Yes, we get around. Having the SkyTrain, even if I go downtown, it's not worth taking the car because you still have to pay $20 to park the thing, and well, you can get down and back for $5. So
It's true. Do you think that a lot of people in New West, is it a driving or commuter city?
everybody still seems to have a car. It seems to be a thing. You have to have a car, and there's very few of us who don't. Although I think price of gas, if we put more road tolls on, it's going to go up.
Right. Do you think that's because perhaps a lot of people live in New West and then travel to other cities around to work?
Well, yeah. If you want to go anywhere other than the SkyTrain system or bus system, you need a car.
It's true.
So
Yeah.
there's a co-op right down here, Moto Co-op. There's a car to go somewhere in town as well. So they're here. I mean, people can join. It's relatively inexpensive, much cheaper than owning a car.
Awesome. So what type of people have you noticed work and live right along the waterfront here?
What type? I don't know. They're average middle-class citizens.
Yeah.
Really.
Is it a lot of families or young people, retirees?
Well, in a building such as ours, it's not families because, having kids up here on the 11th floor is not exactly the thing to do. Maybe down in the townhouses more.
Right.
Around in this building, it's probably more retirees. There's a few families, but very few.
That's cool. So going back to working at the Discovery Center, what are some of your coworkers like? Do you get to work alongside with some people there?
There's a few permanent employees, and the rest are all volunteers. And a lot of kids from Douglas College come. They're needing volunteer hours, and they're interested in archaeology or biology, so they come and spend time at the Discovery Center. I get to meet them.
That's cool. What's the overall atmosphere of the Discovery Center?
Good.
Yeah, it's like casual.
Oh, very.
Yeah, that's
Very.
cool. It must be a fun place to hang out.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me, do you have any good stories from taking people on walks, or has nothing crazy happened?
Well, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I took a group out, and one parent said to me afterwards, says, I don't know what the kids got out of it, but I sure got a lot. It was very interesting. And really, when I do it with kids, I don't lay on the heavies. I don't, just some basic facts about the river, which most people aren't aware of.
Are a lot of the kids surprised by some of the things you teach them, or do you think that they have a good knowledge of the history?
Oh no, a lot of them don't have a clue. I mean, it all fits into the social studies program. When you start talking First Nations issues, you talk about the early canneries, the lumber yards, the quality of the river, the biology of the river, the fish, the bird migrations. A lot of that is, I think, implicit in their social studies programs.
Right. Do you think a lot of them think of the waterfront as a place where people work, or do you think that they think of it more of a place of recreation?
Recreation,
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Do you think that that's different than how it has been in the past?
Well, I mean, when you think about it, 30 years ago, all along the waterfront used to be all waterfront wharves, warehouses, and the trains right behind us here were unloading into them all the time. This was the center of commercial activity. All that's gone now. A lot of it's across the street there. You could see on the river, the Surrey docks. There's none here anymore.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that when I was doing my walk. We've chatted with some former longshoremen and stuff like that, and even people that have lived in the neighborhood for a long time, they remember walking down next to the water to watch the trains go by or watch the boats load up or something. And now when you walk along there, it's hard to imagine
people walking dogs.
Yeah, exactly. It's a total place of recreation now, and it's hard to imagine people going to work there every day and it being industrial and everything like that. So do you think that there's some jobs along the waterfront that are a little bit more prestigious or desirable than others?
Not really. Not really. A lot of service industry. I mean, the tugboats that operate out here by the quay are employ a number of people. One of the guys in our building, he works on the tugboats. He enjoys his life, and it leaves him a lot of family time. But really, it's service industry.
Yeah, that's what it's become, definitely, a lot of retail. I was noticing up on Columbia Street, it's almost exclusively bridal shops. I thought that was really interesting.
That's a history. It's called Bridal Alley. It's been that way for years. People know you come to New West if you want to get your bridesmaids.
It's
brides.
interesting how that's happened. I'm so curious about the history of that.
I don't know how that happened. Yeah. Archie Miller, I'm sure, could tell us.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him if we get a hold of him. Yeah, because from what I've heard in the past, it was all shoemakers mostly. That's back in the 40s or 50s type thing.
There were shoemakers.
And so it's funny how it's gone from shoes to dresses.
Army, Navy, Woodward, Sears, Eaton's, lots of butchers and stuff like that.
Yeah. So before you lived here, did you live in the Fraser River area? Or?
No, I lived in Prince George.
Oh, okay. So you're from up north.
and then prior to that, Lethbridge.
Oh, nice. So you know what Alberta's like as well. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. I'm going to flip this over and see what my other questions say. So, have you participated in any of the events in the community?
Always.
You go to all of them?
Not all of them, but I'm always involved, yeah.
Yeah.
I get involved with the Quayside Community Board. If there's things going on with the Discovery Center that are all-day activities, celebrations of any sort, I'm usually there as a volunteer.
So you're usually working them, not even participating in them. Cool. That's awesome. Do you have any favorite ones that go on around here?
In September, we have the Rivers Day, which is kind of fun if it's not raining. A lot of people flock down here. There's activities for kids, activities for families. There's merchants. There's lots of good food. Entertainment.
What is it all about?
We celebrate BC Rivers, the rivers of British Columbia, and it's called BC Rivers Day. A lot of artists are there. A lot of entertainment. Just a lot of good stuff going on.
That's awesome. And when did you say that happened?
September.
September. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to stick around for that. That's cool. Have you ever had a time in the community where people got together out of anger or sadness or outrage? Has there been anything like that?
Oh, we're always getting together with our members of parliament at the Inn on the Quay is their typical meetings to deal with the train noise. The shunting of the trains is quite loud.
Okay.
in this area, and the train's idling here for hours. So there's a lot of resentment towards that. But hey, let's face it, the railway was here first. You can't go and just turf them out. It's the economic backbone. So it's a thing we have to, as community, work together, partner to make this work. So we're not going to blast our whistles at 3 a.m. We're going to wait till 10 type of thing, or 7.
Right.
So there's meetings always about that.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Did anyone have a problem with the SkyTrain coming in close by, or is
Not
it
as
more?
far as I know, it's not noisy.
Right, it's
But
more
I've had
the
people
railway.
move out of this building because they couldn't sleep because
Oh,
of the
really?
trains. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's that much of a problem.
For some people, for me, it's not an issue.
I can imagine. I used to live up by the train that runs by Burnaby, and
Yeah.
we used to hear it going off at 3 a.m. It's not that bad. You get used to it, but
That's right.
still not preferential. Were you around during the Stanley Cup run a few years
Yeah.
ago? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did anything happen in New West in regards to that, or do you think most of the action was downtown?
Downtown. I spent a part of that Stanley Cup run downtown. Somebody gave us hotel for 5 days, so we
Oh,
went
very
up there and walked around and watched the hockey games up there and looked at real estate, and then came back here and said, no, it's nice and peaceful here. Let's
Yeah.
stay here.
Especially after the riot, I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's stay away from down there.
Mm-hmm.
Were you downtown on that day, or?
No, I was here.
Oh, okay, that's good. Away from all the trouble.
No, I stay away from that.
Well, so I'm curious about how ethnicity or cultural background plays a role in the community. Do you think that there's any like certain community events that happen in regards to that, or maybe locations where people
Not
gather?
really. This is a bit of a mixed population, but generally white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant.
Mm-hmm.
Over in Queensborough, there's a lot more of the Sikh community. They have special days for them.
Mm-hmm.
But here it's, the festivals that are held in this part of New West are geographic. Like there'll be a Quayside event, there'll be a couple of uptown events, there'll be
Right.
a Sapperton Day, there'll be a 12th Avenue a special day, and they're all special days that don't revolve around ethnicity at all.
Okay, so it's more about like locations in the community that bring people together.
Mhm.
That's interesting. I think that's a cool way to do it.
Mm-hmm. It's done very explicitly by our civic people. They organize festivals so that everybody in town, all the commercial people, get some concentration of activity for certain parts of the
Right.
the summer.
So it's kind of an economic thing at the end
Oh,
of
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Are most of the events organized by community groups or by the city or injunction?
Well, there's been the Hayak Festival Association, but they've undergone some turmoil in the last year, and I don't know what's going to happen this year.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
We tried to contact some of them to see if maybe they'd be interested in chatting, but we haven't heard back. So I wonder if maybe that has something to do with it.
They've had some internal problems, and they're working out that, and I'm not sure where that's going.
Does your wife do anything in the community here? Is she involved in any volunteer or anything like that?
Not down here, no.
She
We're
works out of
involved in a
New West?
local church where she takes a more active role. I take my role down here. But we're often involved together and stuff down here.
Is the church in New West here?
Just across the border into Burnaby.
Oh, okay. Cool. Fortunately, I can't chat about it then. Falls out of my jurisdiction. Is there any way that your workplace coworkers participates in any community events or fundraisers or anything like that?
Oh, there's people involved in all sorts of areas here. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. People are very involved, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. So do you think that New West is a pretty close-knit community? Like, do you recognize a lot of people when you're walking around, or shop owners?
Well, a lot of people know me because I also volunteer with the police. I do what's called graffiti patrol, and
Oh, really?
I go out and take pictures of graffiti and tell the owners that there's a bylaw in town and we'd like them to get rid of it, and I send them a letter. So when I walk around, people know there's the graffiti man. So it's just by nature of just doing a lot of walking and networking in town. I do know a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
they know
all
you.
on a good name, friendly basis. I don't throw the heavy stick at them. I leave that up to the bylaws department in the city. But by and large, most people comply with it, and I think New West, as a result, has got very little graffiti. I mean, you're going to find it everywhere, but there's very little of it, and it disappears quickly, and it makes for a cleaner city. It makes for less tendency to indulge in more violent behavior or deviant behavior, shall I say. It just discourages any of that.
Right. Do you think that New West is a pretty safe community overall?
By and large, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you ever experienced any crime or anything like that around here, or heard of anything
Not
happening?
around here. I mean, no, there was that murder up by 22nd Street SkyTrain in December, but really, no. We hear about stuff that's happening over there and across the river and over there at Burnaby.
It's always across the way then.
Mhm.
That's
I
good.
mean, the odd incident happens along the SkyTrain. That's part of living in a big city.
Of course, yeah. Let's see.
You're going to edit all this, I take it?
Oh yes, definitely. Do you have many women that work at the Discovery Center with you?
Actually, most of the volunteers are women. There's a few guys, but
Really?
it's that real mixed blend of a few retirees like myself. We're all educators, and then the young kids, and it's real mix of men and women.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think your favorite part to talk about along the river is?
I have no favorite. I just
Yeah.
enjoy learning more about the river. I read a lot. I'll be taking out books all the time from the library. I've read probably 2/3 of their collection on New Westminster. I've developed this walking tour, and I just keep adding notes to it. And I've got a virtual copy which I keep updating, but right now it's just full of my handwriting of notes, things about the First Nations, history, the gold rush, stuff that happened along the river.
So you probably are pretty familiar then with the shutdown of the port that happened in the 70s?
Not really.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about it.
Well, from what I understand, all along here, like you mentioned, was shipping yards, everything
Right.
like that.
Right.
And apparently the city of New West shut that down and
Okay.
privatized it.
Okay.
And that's where a lot of the manufacturing went away and stuff like that, or just a lot of the work
I'll
along here.
have to read up on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's interesting, and I'm curious on how people think that probably affected the New West waterfront.
Oh, well, I think it cleaned it up. I mean, when I see pictures of the waterfront there, it's pretty sad shape. I mean, in 1898, I think it was, there's a massive fire down at the waterfront that just took out half the city at the time. That's part of being a waterfront that's industrial.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and I guess that's what's changed the most is that we've gone from an industrial to more of a
It's more of a recreational,
Yeah.
retirement type community.
residential, everything like that.
But you see people come and visit me, and they just love sitting here watching those tugboats and other shipping going by, and it's kind of fun.
Totally, yeah, you can still see that there is work being done out there, and that's what's kind of cool about it, is that we do still have an active waterfront out here.
Oh, yes.
It was interesting, I was just down in Seattle a few weekends ago, and to see the similarities yet differences between
Right.
that city to here, it's very interesting to see. It's another waterfront city, right? It's really cool. So has there ever been any major celebrations in the community? Like maybe an anniversary or something like that of New West?
We
I'm
had,
not sure.
What is it, 175 years, a couple of years ago. Whenever there's fireworks, they're always right out here, so I can just sit here in my living room and watch them.
Oh wow, what do they put on fireworks for?
Canada Day, the Queen's birthday, Hayak Festival.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, a couple of times a year we'll have fireworks.
And you've got a great view of it.
Oh
from
yeah,
here.
we gotta. Well, once I've organized a party in our upstairs penthouse because beautiful views from up there.
Right, I can imagine. So
Yeah.
everyone in the building has access to the room up there?
Yeah.
That's awesome. From the very top. Do you also have a view of the mountains facing that way? If you
Just
go
what you
back?
see out my easterly windows here.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah, I could see Golden Ears I can't really see the North Shore Mountains from here or past the Fraser Bridge. It's just from the Alex Fraser, right through to the North Shore Mountain, the East Mountains and towards Hope,
Yeah, that's cool.
and Mount Baker over there, of course.
So, let's see. Based on your knowledge of history, what do you think is one of the biggest events in specifically the waterfront's history?
Well, I think the gold rush just changed everything.
Yeah.
From a peaceful community of a couple of thousand people to 30,000 people within 3 months just coming up here, and some staying, and that developed the whole province. I mean, this river drains 1/4 of all the province. All the rivers flow into it. It's like a big sink, and so 1/4 of BC flows into the Fraser River, and so it's a very important river, and getting to the gold fields was right up here.
Right. Was there ever any other minerals found in this area, or was it just gold?
There's lots of minerals, but gold seems to be the one that really did all the change in BC's history.
Right. Yeah, I'm still getting to know a lot of the industry because I got raised being taught about Calgary fur trades and everything like that. Finding oil. That's what we do.
So you've done a lot of networking with people already in terms of the river?
Yeah, definitely trying to. Like I mentioned, you're my first interview that I've actually connected with.
Have they given you a textbook to read?
I've done a little bit of reading just on my own, and just based on some papers that the project has already published. I can actually pass one on to you if you'd like to read it, because I'm sure you like to read it. Yeah, it's written by Peter, who's one of the guys that's running it through the museum, and it's just about the changing nature of work and everything like that, and just kind of the basis. So it's been interesting for me. I honestly knew nothing about New West coming into it.
Well, that's the way I was 10 years ago when I moved in here. I knew nothing about it. I grew up originally on the St. Lawrence in Montreal, so
Right.
it's different there.
So have you always been drawn to living beside the water?
It's nice. I enjoy it.
It sounds like
Just lots of fresh air, lots of sunshine, lots of light. It's important.
What sort of wildlife do you see along here?
Not much. Well, I see eagles. There's eagles nesting across the river in those trees there.
Oh, really?
We'll often see eagles being chased by other birds, a lot of gulls,
Yeah.
the odd seal up and down the river.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, the seals come up here still. We still have as much as a 2-meter tide here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The water goes up and down quite significantly.
Wow, so it will still change that much.
And it has to be dredged every year because of the silt and sand coming up from upstream. If they leave it here, most ships wouldn't be able to enter this channel. So they have to dredge it and do it in such a way as not to disturb the balance of the salmon runs.
Right. Does it ever freeze over during the winter?
There was ice on it a few weeks ago, but no. I have seen a picture taken in 1904 with kids playing ice hockey out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think I have that one here.
Maybe in the past at some point it
I
has.
don't think I have it here. I have it somewhere.
I'm sure it would have to be pretty cold to freeze over entirely, but
Yeah. Well, we had, I think it was 2007 or 2008, an almost flood. But no, I don't think I have that picture here. Sorry.
no worries. So you were mentioning you notice First Nations fishing along the river here. Do many live in the community, or are they coming from other communities to come fish?
You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't, I mean, you meet them, you see them, but I don't know where everybody lives.
Right.
It's just like everybody else. I don't
Yeah.
know where they live.
It's true, yeah, they're just wandering around, you're not
Mhm,
sure.
mhm.
It's true, yeah, I'm curious about that because I wonder if they're coming from the reserve here or if they live in the city somewhere and are just coming
I
fishing.
honestly don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I
for
mean,
sure.
I've met people who live up in Musqueam. I've met people who live in some of the reserves upstream, but I really don't know.
Nice, that's cool. At least you've been able to actually visit those reserves.
Mhm.
That's cool. So is there any way that people, well, obviously people from the community can get involved in your work through volunteering. Do your friends and family get involved in any way? Like, do they ever come on one of your walks or anything like that?
A few of them have. I've done it with a number of people in this tower.
Yeah?
Taken them on a walk. Oh yeah.
That's cool.
I did one of those, they have here, they did last year, what's called Jane's Walks. Jane, what was her last name? She was a leading ecologist who was trying to bring attention. Jane, I think it's Forrestal. There's a book by her I read. Anyway, around the world, people were doing James walks last year in May to bring attention to the dynamic between the river and the people. I'm trying to think of... Anyway, I did the walk down on the quay here, and people come to that. There's another walk down in Sapperton, another one up at the Westminster Pier. Different people doing these things, so I mean, I'm not the only one.
Yeah. So what are some of the things you talked about in that walk? Like, what is the connection between people and the water?
I just start at the beginning and walk down, and we pick a theme on each one. There's, I don't know if you've been for a walk on the river, there's the Discovery Centre's got these placards with information. Well, I take that information and I really embellish it with more facts.
Okay.
Depending, might be the fishery, might be the sturgeon, might be the history with the gold mine, the fact that we were the first capital of BC, might be the lumber, might be the canneries, might be just water issues. Like, I mean, let's face it, look at all these towers here. Each one has 2 toilets. They're all flushed 20 times a day. Think of the water that's clean water you need and the wastewater you got to deal with.
Yeah.
It's
And where is it all going?
I talk about it with people, you know. I mean, we got to deal with it.
It's true, really. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes an issue of water consumption really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
What about on your walks, talking about the canneries? When did those stop?
Well, there's still a few out there. Down at Steveston, there's a really nice sample one. But when did they stop? Probably in the 60s and 70s. The first one was right across here, a place called Annieville, which was a Norwegian community. And that was 1871. They started the first cannery in BC. And then within years, there was hundreds of them. And that's when... by the 90s, 1890s, 1900s, they had unions running the canneries. We were getting the motorized boat, we were getting motorized engine, we were getting the bigger boats, we were getting more sophisticated operation. The canning process had been developed by then to the point where fish were being fished out, and that's around the turn of the century, 1900, when the government had to step in and take some action, because otherwise the fish would have been gone.
Really? I wasn't aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
So we had fished to such a point that...
There was that danger. You see, originally they were only going after one particular salmon. I think it was the sockeye. And then all of a sudden they realized, oh, there's halibut, there's other fish, there's chum, whatever they all are. Mm-hmm. And they started fishing for them too. And so they really had to be careful. The sturgeon were also overfished. Everybody just wanted them for the caviar. They didn't like the white meat. And they were really declining in numbers until, 1994. Mysteriously, about a dozen of them beached and died here, just up the river. And at that point, they put sturgeon on an endangered list, and so now it's catch and release only.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any restrictions on salmon like that, or?
Well, there's a salmon. I think it's a fishing season. Yeah, you can't just go anytime.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know what the actual season is.
I just remember growing up, they were always teaching us about how we need to be spawning the salmons, and they're running low and everything like that. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, they've had some pretty bad years. They come and go, and it's a 4-year cycle that the eggs are laid. They come down. They spend some time out in the ocean. They come back. You know, and a different group come back every year, and you just don't want to deprive them the ability to come back up and lay their eggs all the way up by Mount Robson or up one of the other streams that are along there.
Do you know what point in the cycle we're at right now with them? Like, are they?
Well, it's I mean, it's an ongoing 4-year different groups.
Right.
There's millions of fish theoretically in there. I never see them.
If they come out, then we'll believe them.
Occasionally, I'll see one jump, but no.
Not much.
No.
Well, anyways, I think that's pretty much all I need to ask you about, unless you have anything more you'd like to talk about in particular. Was there anything that caught your eye when you were...
No, I'd be interested in reading whatever you got to send me, just because I enjoy learning about the river.
Absolutely. I can send you some more information and we can learn some more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I really thank you for chatting with me today. It's been awesome.
Okay.
And you've helped me learn a lot more about the river.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.